It was a rainy afternoon in Paris when Elena Carter, a 21-year-old art student from London, first saw Gabriel Moreau. She was standing on the famous Pont Alexander III bridge, sketchbook in hand, trying to capture the play of light on the Seine. Gabriel, a local musician, was playing his violin nearby, his melodies carrying through the misty air. His music was soft, soulful. Something about it pulled her closer. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt as though time itself had stopped. "You draw?" he asked in accented English, smiling gently. "And you play," she replied, her cheeks warm. That simple exchange marked the beginning of something neither of them had expected. Over the next few weeks, Elena and Gabriel met often, sometimes on the bridge, sometimes in small Parisian cafes. She showed him her sketches. He played her his music. They discovered they shared the same longing to create something beautiful, something that would last beyond themselves. One evening, as they sat by the river, Gabriel whispered, "Maybe our dreams are not separate. Maybe they are meant to be one." Elena smiled. Maybe, but as much as they wished to believe in forever, they both knew reality had a way of testing love. Summer ended. Elena had to return to London for her studies. Gabriel stayed in Paris, tied to his family and his music. They promised to write letters, to call, to visit when they could. For a time, they kept their promise. Letters flew across borders, filled with sketches of bridges, verses of music, and words soaked in love. But slowly, life intervened. Deadlines, performances, obligations all pulled them apart. Months passed without letters. Calls grew shorter. Silence stretched longer. And one day, Elena stood on the very same bridge where they had first met, holding a letter from Gabriel in her trembling hands. "Elena," he whispered, lowering his violin. She could barely breathe. "You came." "I never stopped coming," he said, stepping closer. "Every year, I played on this bridge at sunset, waiting. I told myself, if our love was true, someday you would return." Tears filled her eyes. She dropped her sketchbook and ran into his arms. The city blurred around them as they kissed, the bridge echoing with the promise of forever. Later, sitting together on the bridge, Gabriel handed her a worn notebook. Inside were pages filled with music, every piece he had written in the last 10 years. "They are all about you," he said softly. "Every note, every melody was just me calling your name." Elena opened her sketchbook, showing him years of drawings, all of him. "And every painting I ever made was just me trying to see you again." They laughed through tears, realizing that though time had separated them, love had carried them back to where it began. The bridge that had once witnessed their first meeting now became their eternal vow. Moral of the story: true love doesn't fade with time. It waits patiently beneath the stars until two souls are ready. The rain had just begun to fall in the quiet town of Willowbrook. The streets shimmered under the glow of the streetlights, and the sound of droplets echoed like a soft melody. In a small cafe at the corner of Maple Street, Amelia sat by the window, her fingers gently tracing the rim of her coffee cup. She wasn't waiting for anyone, but her eyes kept drifting to the door as if expecting someone to walk through. 10 years ago, she had left Willowbrook. 10 years ago, she had left him, Ethan. He was the boy with the crooked smile and eyes that held the warmth of 1,000 suns. Back then, they were inseparable, two souls destined to be together. But life had its way of testing love. Amelia received a scholarship abroad, and Ethan's family fell into financial struggles. Letters were exchanged, promises made, but somewhere along the way, silence replaced words. Yet, Amelia never stopped loving him one day. While unpacking her old boxes in her apartment, Amelia discovered a sealed envelope hidden in the pages of her diary. The letter was from Ethan, dated the very week she had left Willowbrook. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Amelia, if you read this, know that I never stopped loving you. Meet me at Maple Cafe on the 15th of September at 6 p.m. If you don't come, I'll understand that our love was only meant to be. The door creaked open. A man stepped in, drenched from the rain, his violin case slung across his shoulder. His hair was slightly messy, his eyes tired but familiar. Amelia's heart stopped. It was him, Ethan. Their eyes met, and in that instant, 10 years melted away. Ethan froze in disbelief before walking toward her slowly, almost afraid she would disappear. Amelia. His voice cracked, filled with shock. She nodded, tears threatening to spill. I found your letter. 10 years too late. Ethan's eyes glistened. He pulled out his wallet and unfolded a worn photograph of them together. I've carried this every single day. I never stopped waiting. They talked for hours, their voices trembling between laughter and tears. Ethan confessed he had stayed in Willowbrook, teaching music, waiting every September 15th at the cafe hoping, praying she would return. Amelia's guilt turned to relief, for destiny had given them another chance. When the rain finally stopped, they stepped outside. Ethan opened his violin case and played a soft, melancholic tune. People paused to listen, but for Amelia, the world had vanished. Under the glowing street lamp, Amelia whispered, "Can we start again?" Ethan smiled, his eyes shining. We never ended. Years later, people in Willowbrook often spoke about the couple at Maple Cafe. The man with the violin and the woman who always sketched by the window. They became a symbol of love lost and found, of promises broken and healed. Because sometimes, love doesn't die, it simply waits for the right moment. And for Amelia and Ethan, that moment came 10 years late, but just in time for eternity. Story: Beneath the Starlit Sky. The night sky above the Tuscan hills stretched like a velvet curtain, studded with diamonds of light. Isabella stood at the edge of the vineyard, her hands brushing gently against the grapevines. The air carried the scent of lavender and earth, mixed with the sound of cicadas singing into the night. She had grown up here, but tonight felt different. Tonight carried the weight of something she couldn't yet name. Far across the vineyard, a lantern flickered. She knew it was Lorenzo. Lorenzo had been her childhood friend, the boy who once carved their initials into the bark of an old olive tree. They had dreamed under these very stars, speaking of futures they weren't sure would ever come true. But life had scattered them. Lorenzo had left to study in Florence, chasing his dreams of becoming a painter. Isabella stayed behind, bound by duty to her family's vineyard. Years passed. Letters dwindled. Silence grew. And yet, when she heard he had returned to Tuscany after nearly a decade, her heart stirred with both fear and longing. Now, as the lantern's glow drew nearer, she saw him. Lorenzo looked different, older, broader in shoulders, yet his eyes still carried that familiar spark. "Isabella," he said softly, his voice trembling, as though speaking her name after so long was both painful and sacred. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "You came back." "I had to," he whispered, stepping closer. "Every painting I ever made, it was of you, Isabella. Even when I tried to paint other things, somehow your face found its way into the canvas." Her heart thudded. "And yet you never wrote." His eyes dropped, guilt clouding them. "I thought, if I stayed away, you'd move on. That maybe it would hurt less for both of us." She shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "You don't know how many nights I stood under this sky, waiting, hoping you'd come back." The silence between them was thick with unsaid words. The stars above seemed to lean closer, listening. Finally, Lorenzo lifted a small, worn sketchbook from his satchel. He handed it to her with trembling fingers. "This is everything I—" The vineyard was quiet around them, but their hearts were loud, echoing with years of love suppressed and now, finally, released. "I don't want to lose you again," Isabella said, her voice firm despite her tears. "Then don't," he replied simply, pulling her into his arms. "Stay with me. Beneath the sky, beneath these stars, let's begin again." And so they kissed soft at first, Then with the urgency of two souls reclaiming what fate had tried to steal. The vineyard, the stars. The night all bore witness to a love that had endured silence, distance, and time itself. For in the end, it wasn't absence that defined them. It was the unbreakable bond that had always lived beneath the starlit sky. Moral of the story: true love may be delayed, but it is never denied. Even when time and distance separate hearts, destiny always finds a way to bring